Beneath a vault of endless green, where sunlight filters through layers of leaves like shafts of liquid gold, a world both ancient and alive unfolds. The Amazon rainforest breathes in slow, steady rhythms, a living cathedral of trees where the air hangs heavy with moisture and the scent of earth. Mist drifts above the sinuous course of mighty rivers, their waters carrying secrets from deep within the continent. The cries of howler monkeys echo like distant drums, while the iridescent flash of a macaw's wing cuts through the shadows. Here, in this realm of overwhelming abundance, every sound, scent, and flicker of movement tells a story of survival and connection. This is not just a forest, it is a universe of life, a place where the past and present converge, where ancient processes still shape the present day. The Amazon is both sanctuary and battleground, cradle and crucible. Its immensity and mystery invite awe, but they also demand understanding. Covering more than 5.5 million square kilometers, an area larger than Western Europe, the Amazon rainforest is the largest continuous tropical forest on Earth. It stretches across 9 nations, with the greatest expanse lying within Brazil, but vast reaches spilling into Peru, Colombia, Venezuela, Ecuador, Bolivia, Guyana, Suriname, and French Guiana. This immense green sea holds one of the richest collections of life anywhere on the planet. Scientists estimate that 1 in 10 known species calls the Amazon home, and countless others remain undiscovered. The forest is a planetary engine, producing roughly 1/5 of the world's fresh water and regulating global climate systems. Its trees draw carbon from the atmosphere and release oxygen, earning it the name the lungs of the earth. Yet its significance is not only biological, but cultural. For millennia, hundreds of indigenous nations have thrived here, weaving their lives into the rhythms of the rivers and the forest. To imagine the Amazon's scale, picture a basin stretching from the slopes of the Andes in the west to the Atlantic Ocean in the east. At its heart flows the Amazon River, the largest by volume anywhere on Earth. Fed by thousands of tributaries, it carries more water than the next 7 largest rivers combined. From highland cloud forests and craggy mountain valleys, meltwater and rain converge to form torrents that plunge eastward, gathering force until they spread into vast, slow-moving channels as wide as seas. The landscape is not uniform. There are terra firme forests, upland regions that never flood, where towering hardwoods rise above a dense understory. In contrast, Várzea floodplains are submerged for months each year, transforming into underwater forests where fish swim among tree trunks. Scattered throughout are black-water streams stained the color of tea by tannins from decaying leaves, palm-dotted swamps, and savanna-like clearings known as campinas. Each microregion hosts a distinct community of plants and animals adapted to its conditions. Despite lying near the equator, the Amazon is far from monotonous. Its heartbeat is measured in cycles of rain and flood. Most areas receive between 1.5 and 3 meters of rainfall annually, but this deluge is unevenly distributed over time and space. In the wet season, swollen rivers overflow their banks, spreading nutrient-rich sediments across floodplains and creating a vast aquatic world where trees flower underwater and fish disperse seeds. When the waters recede in the dry season, sandbars and beaches emerge, migratory birds arrive, and many animals adjust their diets or movements to the shifting availability of food. Even the air carries these seasonal shifts. In the wet months, it is thick and heavy, the forest alive with the calls of breeding frogs and insects. In the dry months, smoke from distant fires may drift through the canopy, skies open to brilliant blue, and fruiting trees draw hungry troops of monkeys. These fluctuations govern every aspect of life here, from the tiniest insect to the grandest predator. Everywhere in the Amazon, abundance is matched by competition. Roots tangle and twist in the thin, nutrient-poor soil as trees race toward the light. Vines coil around trunks like living ropes. Ants form highways along fallen logs, while orchids bloom high above, suspended on branches to capture the sun. The forest hums with activity invisible to the casual eye. Pollination flights at dawn, stealthy predators prowling at dusk, seeds carried away by unseen currents. For the creatures and people who call it home, this is a place of opportunity, but also of challenge. Food may be plentiful, yet ephemeral. Waters nurturing, yet dangerous. Survival requires strategies as intricate as the forest itself. To understand the Amazon's extraordinary life, we must first understand its stage, the land and forces that shape it. Beneath the green canopy lies a dynamic world of rivers, soils, and climate patterns constantly reshaped by natural forces. But to truly grasp the vibrant life of this land, we must explore its very fabric, its topography, climate, and the natural forces that sustain it.
Beneath the emerald canopy, the Amazon is a landscape sculpted by water. Seen from above, it resembles a vast veined leaf, countless rivers, streams, and oxbow lakes branching out in all directions. At its heart flows the Amazon River itself, a slow-moving inland sea whose sediment-laden waters swirl with silt from the Andes. Every day, it carries nearly 20% of the world's river discharge into the Atlantic, constantly reshaping the lowlands it traverses. This basin is a mosaic of distinct terrains. The Terra forests stand on ancient weathered soils that never flood, dominated by towering emergent trees such as kapok and Brazil nut. These uplands form islands of stability where tree roots plunge deep to find nutrients. In contrast, the Várzea floodplains are reborn each year as seasonal inundations sweep across them, depositing fresh sediments. Here, trees like the cecropia and giant fig thrive in waterlogged conditions, while aquatic grasses and shrubs colonize newly exposed banks. Threaded among them are igapo forests, flooded by blackwater rivers tinted by tannins. Their soils are acidic and poor in nutrients, yet they support unique plant communities adapted to low light and fluctuating water levels. Swamps and palm-dotted wetlands add still more layers, while on the fringes of the basin, open savannas and white sand campinas break the green expanse. Each of these habitats acts like a stage set for a different cast of species. The Amazon's climate is dominated by warmth and humidity. Daytime temperatures hover around 26 to 32 degrees Celsius, 79 to 90 degrees Fahrenheit, year-round, while nights cool only slightly. Humidity often exceeds 80%, creating a perpetual haze that softens the edges of the forest. Rain falls with theatrical intensity, drumming on leaves and swelling rivers, then recedes to leave a chorus of dripping branches. In some regions, more than 3 meters of rainfall can fall annually. But this rain does not come at random. The Amazon generates much of its own precipitation. Trees draw water from the ground and release it through transpiration, sending billions of tons of moisture skyward each day. This forms vast plumes of water vapor that rise, condense, and fall again as rain, feeding an almost self-sustaining cycle. Without its forests, the basin's climate would be very different. Water is the great architect here. Each wet season, the Amazon River rises up to 10 meters, flooding an area larger than many countries. Fish swim through submerged forests, dispersing seeds and linking aquatic and terrestrial ecosystems. When waters recede, they leave behind fertile soils for plants and feeding grounds for wildlife. This annual pulse is as vital to the forest as blood is to a body. Wind also shapes the region, carrying Saharan dust across the Atlantic to replenish nutrients lost from the basin's old leached soils. Without this invisible link between continents, the Amazon's fertility would decline. Seasonal winds influence rainfall patterns, bringing storms or drier spells that ripple through the ecosystem.
Fire, though rare deep inside the rainforest, plays a role at its margins and in drier years. Natural lightning strikes can ignite small blazes, clearing patches for pioneer plants. Yet the forest's dense humidity generally prevents large wildfires. Fire becomes a major force mainly when human activity dries and opens the canopy. Geological cycles set the stage over millennia. The uplift of the Andes redirected ancient rivers and created the modern Amazon's eastward flow. Slow subsidence and sedimentation shape floodplains and meanders, while erosion carves new channels. Even unseen tectonic movements far below ground influence the land above, dictating where water gathers and how habitats evolve. The Amazon is not static. It pulses with change on every scale. Over hours, rains can swell creeks into torrents. Over seasons, forests alternately flood and dry. Over centuries, rivers shift course, leaving oxbow lakes where channels once flowed. Trees fall, creating sunlit gaps colonized by fast-growing vines and shrubs. Animals move in response. Fish follow floods, birds migrate with fruiting cycles, and insects time their emergence to the first rains. Even the forest's air chemistry changes with the seasons. In the wet months, high humidity and cloud cover dampen temperatures, while in the dry months, clearer skies allow more sunlight to penetrate the canopy, spurring photosynthesis. Some plants flower or fruit only in response to these subtle cues. Pollinators and seed dispersers, in turn, adjust their movements to match these cues. Periodic disturbances, storms, floods, tree falls, are not disasters here, but part of the design. They create a shifting mosaic of habitats that maintains biodiversity. Species that specialize in early successional patches flourish alongside those adapted to the stable shade of old growth. For those traveling by boat or plane, the Amazon seems endless, a seamless carpet of green. Yet, at the local level, it is finely grained. Indigenous peoples have long mapped its subtle differences, knowing which streams flood first, which groves fruit in which months, and where to find clay for pots or bark for medicine. Their knowledge reflects the deep interconnectedness of topography, climate, and life. Modern science confirms what local wisdom intuits. The Amazon is a system of feedback loops. Cut the trees, and rainfall diminishes. Alter the rivers, and fish migrations falter. Drain the wetlands, and the flood pulse weakens. The land, water, and sky are bound in a single cycle. This vast and dynamic stage sets the conditions for life's greatest experiment in diversity. Plants and animals have evolved not in spite of these forces, but because of them, weaving intricate relationships within the forest's shifting patterns. But life here is not just about the landscape, it is about the myriad creatures that have found a way to exist and thrive within these conditions.
Step into any square kilometer of the Amazon rainforest, and you may find more species of trees than exist in all of North America. Beneath your feet, ants and beetles outnumber the stars you can see above the canopy at night. This is a living library, its volumes written in fur, feather, scale, and leaf. Scientists estimate the basin holds at least 40,000 plant species, 1,300 bird species, 430 mammals, and millions of insects, with new species described every year. Here, variety is not a luxury, but the very foundation of survival. Different forms, colors, and behaviors fill every available niche, from the canopy bathed in sunlight to the dim, humid forest floor and the flowing rivers below. The Amazon's biodiversity is its resilience, a tapestry woven from countless threads. At the base of this web are plants. Towering kapok and Brazil nut trees pierce the canopy like cathedral pillars, supporting entire communities of epiphytes, mosses, and insects. Giant water lilies spread their round leaves across still backwaters, creating floating islands for frogs and insects. Lianas, thick woody vines, drape from branches like living cables, linking tree to tree. Palms provide fruit and shelter, their fronds forming a roof for countless small creatures. Many plants here have evolved extraordinary adaptations. Some release flowers or fruit only during specific months, synchronizing with the life cycles of animals that disperse their seeds. Others produce chemicals to deter herbivores or attract specialized pollinators. The forest is not a passive backdrop, but an active participant in shaping life. Above the treetops, scarlet macaws flash their wings in pairs, calling loudly as they fly between clay licks rich in minerals. Spider monkeys swing through the mid-canopy, their long tails curling around branches. Sloths, slow and deliberate, blend with mossy trunks, hosting their own micro-ecosystems of algae and insects in their fur. On the forest floor, a different drama unfolds. Jaguars, silent and powerful, pad along hidden trails. Tapirs browse on fallen fruit, spreading seeds across kilometers. Armadillos root in the soil, and tiny poison dart frogs, no bigger than a fingernail, advertise their toxicity with neon colors. Beneath the water's surface lies yet another world. Pink river dolphins navigate murky channels with echolocation, while schools of tambaqui fish feast on fallen fruit, dispersing seeds back into the river system. Electric eels pulse with hidden energy. Even here, life depends on the flood cycles above. Every species is part of a network of interactions. Bees, butterflies, and hummingbirds pollinate flowering plants. Bats carry pollen across long distances. Ants farm fungus on leaves they cut and carry, recycling nutrients back into the soil. Leafcutter ants alone move tons of plant material each year, aerating soil and shaping plant growth. Predation keeps populations in balance. Jaguars control numbers of capybaras and peccaries, preventing overgrazing of riverbanks. Raptors prey on smaller birds and mammals, shaping their behavior.
Parasites and decomposers ensure nothing is wasted. Fallen trees quickly become nurseries for fungi and insects, which in turn feed birds and reptiles. Mutualisms, relationships where both partners benefit, are everywhere. Many fruiting trees rely on large-bodied animals like tapirs or fish to spread their seeds. Some flowers bloom at night to attract bats rather than insects. Even trees and fungi form symbiotic partnerships at the root level, exchanging nutrients for sugars. Certain species have an outsized impact on the whole system. Large fruit-eating fish, such as tambaqui and pacu, act as gardeners of the forest, swallowing seeds and excreting them miles away, maintaining plant diversity along rivers. The Brazil nut tree depends on a single genus of large-bodied bee to pollinate its flowers, which in turn depend on intact forest for nesting. Remove one part and the chain unravels. Predators like the jaguar also act as keystone species, controlling herbivore populations and allowing vegetation to regenerate. Even seemingly humble creatures, dung beetles, termites, or fungi, cycle nutrients so that thin tropical soils can support lush growth year after year. In a place of such competition, specialization is key. Some birds have bills shaped precisely to the flowers they feed on. Certain frogs breed in tiny pools of water caught in bromeliad leaves, where their tadpoles develop far from predators. Army ants form living bridges with their own bodies, allowing columns to cross gaps. Plants in flooded forests grow buttress roots to anchor themselves against strong currents, while others store air in spongy tissues to survive months underwater. These adaptations reduce overlap and allow many species to coexist. It is a constant evolutionary dance, cooperation and competition intertwined. Despite its richness, this web of life is delicate. Each strand supports others. A decline in pollinators means fewer seeds. Fewer fruiting trees means less food for animals. Reduced animal numbers means less seed dispersal, affecting forest regeneration. Feedback loops can either sustain abundance or spiral into collapse. But the opposite is also true. Protect one part of the system and benefits ripple outward. Safeguarding a river stretch helps fish populations, which helps seed dispersal, which helps forest growth, which stabilizes climate and water cycles. Here in the Amazon, diversity is not static, but flows with the seasons, rising and falling with the rivers and rains. Life pulses to the beat of an invisible drummer, the cycles of wet and dry, abundance and scarcity. Yet the vibrant life of this region is constantly tested by its most formidable challenge, the relentless march of the seasons.
In the Amazon, time is not marked by winter and summer, but by water. The pulse of the forest follows two great beats, flood and drought. Each year, Torrential rains falling in the distant Andes and across the basin swell the Amazon River and its tributaries until they overflow their banks. Forests that once stood on dry ground become submerged beneath several meters of tea-colored water. Trees flower and fruit underwater. Fish swim among trunks, and the calls of frogs echo across a drowned world. Months later, the waters retreat. Beaches and sandbars emerge, exposing sunlit stretches of nutrient-rich mud. Rivers shrink back to narrower channels, isolating lagoons and oxbow lakes. The forest exhales, and animals adjust their lives to the new conditions. For those who know how to read it, the Amazon's seasonal cycle is as predictable as the phases of the moon, yet it brings constant change. During the wet months, the Amazon becomes an inland sea. Nutrients washed from upstream enrich the floodplain, and aquatic life surges. Fish such as tambaqui and pacu gorge on fruits and seeds that fall into the water, dispersing them far and wide. Pink river dolphins venture deep into flooded forests, hunting fish in channels that exist only for a few weeks each year. Birds find new feeding grounds, probing the water's edge for insects and crustaceans. Trees adapted to submersion deploy special strategies. Some produce spongy tissues in their roots to store oxygen. Others synchronize their flowering to take advantage of pollinators concentrated on small islands of dry land. For many species, the flood season is a time of reproduction and dispersal, when resources are plentiful and predators dispersed. When rains abate and waters recede, the Amazon changes character. Sandbars stretch like pale ribbons across the rivers. Fish retreat to deeper pools or become trapped in isolated lakes, vulnerable to predators. Riverbanks harden, and plants that once grew in water sprout new leaves for drier conditions. For terrestrial animals, the dry season can be a time of challenge. Food sources become patchy. Fruit is scarcer, pushing monkeys, birds, and rodents to travel farther or switch diets. Predators adjust as well. Jaguars may patrol shrinking waterholes where prey congregates. Caiman bask on exposed mudflats. The dry season concentrates life, bringing predator and prey into closer contact. The inhabitants of the forest have evolved intricate strategies to match these cycles. Some birds time their nesting so chicks hatch when insects are most abundant. Certain frogs breed explosively after the first heavy rains, taking advantage of ephemeral pools before they dry up. Plants release seeds during the dry months so that germination coincides with the coming rains. Migration is common. River turtles travel hundreds of kilometers to reach favored nesting beaches as water levels fall. Many fish move between main channels and flooded forests, timing their movements with water levels. Even insects, seemingly ubiquitous, emerge in waves linked to humidity and temperature shifts. Not all strategies involve movement. Some involve waiting. Amphibians bury themselves in moist soil to survive the dry months, slowing their metabolism until rains return. Seeds of certain plants remain dormant for months or years, sprouting only when conditions are favorable. Sloths, with their slow metabolism and algae-covered fur, conserve energy year-round, making them less dependent on seasonal booms and busts. Camouflage also provides an edge. During low water periods, when predators and prey are forced into closer proximity, blending with the background can mean the difference between life and death. Leaf-mimicking katydids disappear among foliage. Fish adopt cryptic coloration to match sun-dappled waters. Despite its apparent abundance, the Amazon can be unforgiving. Floodwaters can drown burrows, wash away nests, and carry young animals far from their parents. In the dry season, stranded fish may die in evaporating pools, and fruit shortages can lead to starvation for specialized animals. Those species unable to adapt either move elsewhere or disappear. Even trees must cope. In flooded forests, roots deprived of oxygen develop aerial extensions called pneumatophores. In dry areas, some species grow deep taproots or thick bark to resist drought and fire. Each adaptation represents a compromise between costs and benefits in an unpredictable environment. The Amazon cycles are not limited to water alone. Many species also respond to lunar phases, temperature gradients, or interannual climate events such as El Niño and La Niña, which can bring severe droughts or floods. These larger patterns overlay the annual rhythm, forcing species to be flexible on multiple timescales. Indigenous peoples have long read these cues, timing planting, fishing, and gathering to the rise and fall of rivers, the flowering of certain trees, and the arrival of migratory animals. Their knowledge underscores how deeply life here is tuned to the forest's pulse. This seasonal dance has persisted for millennia, producing a system both dynamic and resilient. By spreading risks across time, flooding one season, scarcity the next, the forest supports astonishing diversity. Yet resilience has limits. As climate patterns shift and human activities alter water flow, the timing of floods and rains becomes less predictable. Species finely tuned to seasonal cues may find their strategies mismatched to the new reality. For now, the Amazon still follows its ancient rhythm of rising waters and falling rains, of abundance and scarcity, of life adapting and persisting. But another, newer force is at work here, one that does not follow natural cycles. While nature follows its eternal cycles, another force has begun to shape the destiny of these wild places, humankind.
Long before satellite images traced the Amazon's green expanse, people lived here in intimate relationship with the forest. Archaeological evidence reveals ancient earthworks, fish ponds, and soil enrichment, signs that indigenous cultures shaped the landscape while keeping it productive. For thousands of years, hundreds of distinct nations developed languages, medicines, and traditions tied to the rhythms of rivers and seasons. They cultivated small clearings for crops such as manioc and maize, rotated fields to allow regrowth, and managed groves of fruit and nut trees. Rather than a pristine wilderness, the Amazon has long been a human-inhabited mosaic, nurtured by those who understood its cycles. Even today, more than 400 indigenous groups call the basin home. Their knowledge of plants, animals, and seasonal cues is encyclopedic, guiding sustainable hunting, fishing, and gathering practices. This deep stewardship kept the forest's vast web of life largely intact until outside forces arrived on a much larger scale. Over the past century, the Amazon has become a global frontier for resource extraction. Logging companies cut deep into once remote forests. Roads, dams, and pipelines carve corridors that open new areas to settlement. Vast tracts of trees are cleared for cattle ranching or soy plantations. Mining for gold and other minerals scars riverbanks and poisons waters with mercury. Deforestation in the Brazilian Amazon alone has removed more than 17% of the forest since the 1970s. Each cleared patch fragments habitat, isolates animal populations, and disrupts the region's rainfall cycle. Fewer trees mean less moisture released into the atmosphere, which can reduce rainfall locally and even far beyond the basin. Scientists warn that continued clearing could push the forest toward a tipping point where large areas shift from rainforest to dry savanna, a transformation with global climate consequences. Climate change compounds these pressures. Rising temperatures and shifting rainfall patterns lead to more intense droughts and wildfires at the edges of the forest. Rivers run lower, fish populations decline. Species adapted to narrow seasonal windows find their life cycle thrown off balance. Pollution from cities, industry, and agriculture seeps into rivers, affecting both wildlife and human communities. Along newly paved highways, once continuous forest becomes a checkerboard of clearings and isolated fragments. Jaguars, tapirs, and harpy eagles lose the wide territories they need to survive. Migratory fish encounter dams blocking ancient spawning routes. Mercury from illegal gold mining accumulates in river dolphins and people alike, threatening health and culture.
For indigenous communities, these changes bring displacement and loss of livelihood. Traditional hunting grounds shrink, sacred sites are destroyed, languages and knowledge risk disappearing with the forests that nurtured them. Yet, the story of the Amazon is not only one of loss. Across the basin, communities, governments, and organizations are working to protect and restore the forest. Indigenous territories, when legally recognized and enforced, often show far lower rates of deforestation than surrounding lands. Supporting indigenous land rights is therefore one of the most effective conservation strategies. Large protected areas such as Peru's Pacaya Samira Reserve or Brazil's Tumucumaque National Park safeguard millions of hectares of habitat. International initiatives aim to curb deforestation through supply chain agreements, encouraging buyers to source beef, soy, and timber from deforestation-free operations. Reforestation projects plant native species to reconnect fragmented landscapes, allowing wildlife to move and genetic diversity to recover. Scientific research and community monitoring help detect illegal logging or mining. Satellite technology provides near real-time data on forest loss, giving authorities and activists tools to act quickly. Environmental education programs teach new generations the value of their natural heritage, blending traditional knowledge with modern science. There are reasons for hope. In some regions, deforestation rates have slowed following stronger enforcement and global pressure. Community-based forestry programs in places like the Brazilian state of Acre combine sustainable harvesting with conservation, providing livelihoods without clearing new land. River turtle populations, once plummeting, have rebounded in areas where local people protect nesting beaches. In Colombia, peace agreements have opened opportunities for new conservation corridors linking the Andes and Amazon. These successes show that when policy, community action, and international support align, the Amazon's resilience can shine through. Forests regenerate, wildlife returns, rivers run clearer, but they also show how fragile gains can be without sustained commitment. The Amazon may seem distant, but its fate is tied to the entire planet. Its forests store billions of tons of carbon, regulate rainfall across South America, and influence weather patterns as far away as North America and Europe. Its rivers hold a fifth of the world's fresh water. Its biodiversity contains untold genetic resources, including medicines yet to be discovered. Losing it would mean losing a vital part of Earth's life support system. Each consumer choice, policy decision, and voice raised in defense of the forest matters. Reducing demand for products linked to deforestation, supporting organizations that protect indigenous rights, and urging governments to enforce environmental laws are all steps towards safeguarding this living system. Protecting the Amazon is not simply an act of charity for distant wildlife. It is an act of self-preservation for humanity. The forest is a mirror reflecting our own future, resilient yet vulnerable, abundant yet finite. We have journeyed from the green cathedral's depths to the forces that shape its survival. We have seen how people have both nurtured it and threatened it, and how solutions can take root alongside destruction. In the end, the fate of this wild region will depend not just on nature's strength, but on our decisions.
We began beneath an emerald canopy, where shafts of sunlight pierced the mist and the cries of unseen creatures echoed through a living cathedral of trees. We followed the sweep of rivers born in the Andes, carrying the breath of mountains into a lowland sea. We traced the contours of flooded forests and upland ridges, saw how water, wind, and ancient geology shape a realm of unrivaled biodiversity. We met jaguars and sloths, orchids and giant water lilies, leafcutter ants and pink river dolphins, each a thread in a vast web of life. We watched the seasons rise and fall, the forest pulsing with abundance and scarcity, each species dancing to the rhythms of flood and drought. And we saw how humans, first as stewards, later as exploiters, have left both gentle footprints and deep scars upon this land. All these images form a single story, the Amazon as a living system, dynamic and resilient, but not invulnerable. Standing at the edge of an Amazonian river at dawn, you might see mist curling off the water, hear the echo of a macaw's call, feel the humidity wrap around you like a living presence. You might also sense something less tangible, the immensity of time, the persistence of life, the fragility of balance. The Amazon is not just a place, it is a process, a pulse, a conversation between earth, water, air, and living beings. That conversation has endured for millions of years, surviving ice ages, tectonic shifts, and the rise and fall of civilizations. Yet, in a few decades, human activity has placed unprecedented stress upon it. Trees that once stood for centuries fall in a day. Rivers cloud with silt and mercury. Songs of birds fade where forest becomes pasture. The cycle can be broken. What happens here does not stay here. The Amazon influences rainfall across an entire continent, helps stabilize the global climate, and stores vast amounts of carbon. Its biodiversity holds genetic treasures that could inspire new medicines, crops, and technologies. The knowledge of its indigenous peoples offers insights into sustainable living honed over millennia. Losing the Amazon would not only erase these possibilities, but also undermine the systems that sustain life far beyond its borders. We often think of the forest as remote, but its breath reaches our cities. The moisture rising from its trees can become rain that waters crops thousands of kilometers away. The carbon it stores affects the air we all breathe. In this sense, the Amazon is part of us, and we are part of it. And yet, hope remains. Forests regenerate when given the chance. Wildlife returns when habitat is protected. Communities thrive when their rights are recognized and their knowledge respected. International agreements, local conservation projects, and everyday choices all create ripples of change. Each seed planted, each hectare protected, each policy enforced is a thread reinforcing the tapestry rather than unraveling it. The Amazon teaches us that diversity is strength, and that cycles of renewal follow even after disturbance, if the underlying system remains intact. It also teaches us that everything is connected: tree to river, insect to bird, forest to atmosphere, present to future. Protecting it is not only about saving trees or species, it is about safeguarding a living network that sustains us all. Imagine a child from one of the forest's indigenous communities paddling a canoe at sunrise. The water is still, reflecting a sky streaked with orange and pink. A toucan calls from a branch overhead. A dolphin surfaces nearby, exhaling a plume of mist. That child's future, and ours, depends on whether the scene endures. Will the river still run clear? Will the trees still stand? Will the songs of birds still echo over the water? The Amazon does not speak in human words, but its message is clear. In every rustling leaf, every rushing river, every heartbeat of hidden creatures, it asks for space to continue its ancient rhythms. The wild does not ask for our help, yet without it, the wild will fade, and with it, a part of ourselves. The Amazon is a mirror of the best and worst in humanity, our capacity to destroy, and our capacity to protect. Standing at this crossroads, we hold the power to choose which legacy will outlast us. Now more than ever, it is time for us to heed nature's call and protect what remains.